The Catawba River stretches 376 miles through the Carolinas, sustaining communities, industries, and ecosystems for centuries. Beginning in the Blue Ridge Mountains and winding down to the shores of Lake Wateree, this river basin provides water, recreation, and economic opportunities for more than 2 million people across 2 states. The Catawba Wateree Water Management Group is a collective of representatives from different stakeholder organizations who focus on water quantity and quality challenges to ensure the resiliency of this vital natural resource. Long before the environmental challenges we face today, the Catawba River was the lifeblood for native tribes like the Catawba people, who gave this waterway its name. I wonder if you could just take a minute and talk to us about the significance of the Catawba River to your people and to this region.
Well, the Catawba River has always been the lifeblood of our people. We use the river for food, transportation, our clay holes were right next to the river. Fishing out of the river, recreation in the river, even refrigeration. And I think over the generations, all of us have taken advantage and just never thought about it as being a resource, and we all play a part in the preservation.
With more than 1,800 miles of shoreline and 11 reservoirs, the Catawba River is one of the most densely populated river basins in the Carolinas, requiring careful resource management.
Yeah, so we depend on the Catawba River for almost everything. All the electricity comes from hydropower or nuclear power or coal power, generated right here on the river. The same thing with our drinking water. We really don't have enough groundwater in our area to support a city. So if you want a city, you're pulling from reservoirs of the Catawba.
The basin's reservoirs were built for power generation. Today they support drinking water, industry, agriculture, and recreation. To operate the dams, Duke Energy pursued what's called a relicensing agreement. That's a legally binding document that spells out how an energy company can operate its facilities. It typically lasts 40 to 50 years. So we're talking about why the river has been so important to this region as it developed. Why is the relicensing process so important?
Well, to me, what the relicensing process did was it's got a lot of people working together, but the end result was that it set the rules. It made the rules that Duke Energy has to follow in exchange for being able to use the river to operate their business. It sets out a lot of environmental protections. It gives some certainty as to how the system will function for the next several decades, and really ensures that it'll be a continued resource for the region to support water supply and economic growth.
In 2006, the relicensing process involved 3 key parties: Duke Energy, water utility companies, and local nonprofit organizations. Now let's hear from Vicki Taylor, who was executive director of the Catawba Wateree Relicensing Coalition during the relicensing process.
That coalition was formed back in 2000, and that was when Duke Energy started formally its relicensing process. So we formed a coalition, the idea being that we would represent stakeholders up and down the basin, North and South Carolina, and negotiate a settlement agreement, as opposed to have a lot of litigation fighting during this license process. There was also a lawsuit by South Carolina to North Carolina over some interbasin transfers that actually ended up going to the Supreme Court. There was also Duke's sort of threat to start charging the water withdrawers for taking water out of the reservoirs.
These agreements are complex and at times contentious. This relicensing agreement was one of the biggest in the country. It involved more than 70 stakeholders, including community members, local water utilities, and nonprofits.
Some of the utilities had been taking water out of the Catawba River before the dams were built. And some of those utilities had deeds that seemed to, or may not have, granted water rights in perpetuity. And so there was some controversy when Duke came forward and said we're looking at starting to charge for water withdrawals. And we worked through that concept for a while with Duke as part of the relicensing process. And Duke finally said, well, we're not going to use this money that we collect to go in our shareholders' pockets, which is probably what all the water utilities might have been thinking.
It would be a worry.
It would be a worry. And we said, well, what are you going to do with it? Well, we're going to reinvest it into the water system, into the river system. And so the water utilities went off and thought about that a little bit and said, well, you know, that might be a good idea. Why don't we all contribute, including Duke Energy, contribute money into an organization that works together to do the planning and to do the projects that will help ensure the long-term suitability of the Catawba River as a water supply source and as an energy producing source. As another part of that, Duke agreed not to pursue any rights that they may or may not have had to assess water charges, as long as the Water Management Group existed and was meeting its functions, and as long as the water supplier was a member of that organization. So that's what created the Water Management Group. That's actually was written into the comprehensive relicensing agreement that was approved by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Can you talk about some of the challenges that you guys faced when you were first forming the organization?
One of the biggest challenges was a natural challenge. We had a drought of record here that occurred from the middle of 1998 to the fall of 2002. 4 straight years of much, much below normal rainfall. We got reminded that we are not in charge. This whole system's rainfall dependent. So when we started the relicensing process, everybody was ultra focused on, we got all this growth going on, we had this drought, do we really have enough water to continue to grow? And we did a bunch of forward modeling to see if we continue to grow and continue to use water the way we have been, and we have a repeat of that at that time drought of record, would we survive it? The result of that was that we projected that by about 2050, the region would outgrow this shared water supply. Wouldn't mean that all of a sudden we would be without water. What it would mean, though, is if the region was going to continue to grow, we'd have to find water from someplace else. So that was not acceptable. And the water utilities and Duke Energy were ultra focused on how can we figure out how to continue to use this economic engine to grow for the foreseeable future. And it was pretty clear. We had to change the way we were doing business. We couldn't think about our individual use of water in silos anymore. We've got a shared water supply. We have a shared responsibility to figure out how to use this water supply for the betterment of the whole region.
Well, as with any new group, forming is a big part of how you get everybody to norm and storm and really decide what you want to be when you grow up. We went through some of that processes and tried to involve a lot of stakeholders to make sure that a new group would really have the foundations and the principles that would kind of guide us into the future. And out of some of that, everybody had different takeaways in terms of what they wanted to see out of the relicensing process. And I believe everyone received something out of it, whether it was a new state park, whether it was additional flows for recreational purposes, or really just knowing what drinking water issues were coming about in terms of what's coming down the river from North Carolina into South Carolina, and how do we share the same commonalities.
The CWWMG now consists of 21 members who also partner with land trusts and river nonprofits. Members contribute funds to join the group, and those funds are strategically used for river basin planning and securing grants, supporting the group's long-term goals.
The way to do this is to work regionally, collaboratively, get all the interests on the table, and help people see that we need to balance it. It's only in the good of all interests to do that. You can't just manage a portion of the river.
I think these past few years, we have extended beyond our borders in the way that we communicate, in the way that we understand the world around us, and that we don't have blinders on anymore to just what's happening in our town. It is a community effort to come together and understand how do we impact on an individual basis, but also on a community basis.
I really think, again, this has been a team of professionals that are all volunteers, but this is kind of what we did, and this is our livelihood. So spending the time to really get involved and make something out of it has really been worthwhile for me.
This collaborative approach is crucial for addressing issues affecting the basin's water supply. The Integrated Water Resource Plan, or IWRP, is updated every 10 years with a focus on drought management.
The IWRP is to look at future demands, climate change, other factors that will influence demand on the water source. So field testing and studies are conducted every time we're doing one of these updates. They determine factors like demand. They determine factors like intake levels as opposed to where reservoir levels are. There's study work going on to help look at source water protection from a quality standpoint and contaminant loading.
The group is working directly with its members to reduce water loss. This includes partnering with water conservation programs and other utilities. While the process is complex, it is vital to ensure reliable access to water for everyone.
I think one of the big things that we're looking at in the future that we haven't really looked at before as an organization is how do we help all of our member organizations, member utilities, with what they need in their systems, such as leak detection, repairs, conservation, so that we're not taking that water out of the basin in order to just waste it in the ground in leaks and things like that. So not everybody has the same level of resources, so if we can kind of package all of our strength together, then I think we can make a much bigger impact regionally.
Collaboration in this way can present challenges, but the group found a solution by establishing an advisory committee. This committee provides valuable insights across key areas, including research, recreation, government, business, and agriculture.
One of the huge milestones, I think, was really adding on the advisory committee. And this was a group we decided that we needed more information other than just utilities. A lot of the utility people have a lot of the same mindset, but then having folks that are looking more into the recreational purposes, the government, the lobbying, the recreational needs, the wildlife, that was huge. And homeowners just not really participating in our group. So I think one of the huge milestones was having them more involved, looking at conservation projects, and really just kind of expanding our focus so that we were looking at more than just producing water. And having it where we're looking at water quality now and just really all the aspects that go into producing good quality water and recreational needs, as well as other purposes for everyone along the river.
The Citizens Water Academy helps people connect with water stewardship in a meaningful way. It's part of larger efforts like the Water for All Summit, which brings the community together to learn and share ideas about managing our water resources.
We recognized how little people knew or understood about this river, or where their drinking water came from, or why there's boat ramps here and not there. And so the Water Academy helps people understand the recreational aspect, the drinking water aspect, the wastewater aspect, the energy aspect.
So my husband and I both attended the class. We are both residents and both retired. We actually went together, and we learned together. We discussed it at home, and we've made some changes at home because of that, yeah. It really has made an impact.
Initiatives like the Academy and the Summit demonstrate the group's dedication to unified planning, bringing together all stakeholders who rely on the river to achieve a common vision for its future.
I think the Catawba Water Management Group is a planning organization, and one of the things that we've always said is that planning is a process. It's not an event. It's not something you do one time. It's something that you do continuously. And having all of the water supply utilities that use the river together to do that planning, I think is just critically important.
The Catawba Group is very professional, and they have a passion for water, and they do make it a #1 priority, and they do what they say they're going to do.
It is absolutely our obligation to be good stewards of the natural resources around us.
The vision is that all the uses are protected for the next 100 years.
It's not always take. It has to be considered what we are doing to help re-nourish the river.
Together, we're securing a future where the Catawba thrives for all. Thank you for joining us in protecting this vital lifeline for generations to come.